Hi, everyone, and welcome to Your Right to Know with Tony DeFazio of DeFazio and Zeidman. And today we're talking about you getting arrested, acquitted, but your record stays up on the internet for a long time. Your mugshot, the information about your arrest, and you are trying to get it down or clear your name the best that you possibly can. What happens in those situations, Tony? Because we see it now so much on the internet where someone gets arrested, they get acquitted, but the record stays there and it's tied to any search you might do on that person.
Well, what happens is before the internet came out, and when it was just papers and regular background checks and stuff like that, under New York law, if you are charged with a crime and that crime is later dismissed, whether it's a acquittal, whether it's just dismissed by the court, whether it's something called ACD and eventually dismissed, then that record is sealed. In the state of New York, where your fingerprints go, what they used to do back in when you actually had real fingerprints, they would actually send you back your fingerprint card and your mugshot. But now they just delete it from the system, and there is a check and balance system to do that. The same time, the local police department where you got arrested, they have to get rid of those records. They're obligated to purge it, and so is the district attorney's office. But now things have changed, and they've changed because of the internet. Because what happens now is once you're arrested, if there's a public release of that information, which is allowed under, news outlets can come in under FOIL requests and get that information, then that's in the public domain, and that's on the internet. And so even though your record will be sealed and your criminal record will be sealed and the district attorney is supposed to get rid of the records, if somebody does a search of you, they're going to find that you were arrested for this. And remember, arrests, even though people say, well, you were arrested, you must be guilty. The truth is, what is an arrest? It's just an accusation. It's just somebody accusing you of doing something wrong. It happens to be the police, but it's just an accusation. It's not proof. It's not a conviction. And that's very important. So what has happened now is in Europe, there was a case in 2010. A Spanish citizen was complaining and brought an action in what's known as the European Court. Mm-hmm. And the action was he had had a foreclosure some years before, and it was on the internet that he was basically a deadbeat. But the foreclosure had been worked out, and everything had been settled, and what was presented on the internet was no longer true. He brought an action to essentially make the internet forget him. And the action went all the way up, and it went all the way up to the European courts, and they decided that Google, one of the main search engines, had to forget this man's information about the foreclosure. Now, they have the ability to do that, these search engines. They can, manipulate their searches. But they started, so the idea of this, the right to forget, or be forgotten, has come up. In the United States, there's no such rule. Mm-hmm. And you have a First Amendment, and there's all constitutional provisions about that. But I suspect that and there's all these balancing tests that has to go through, but I suspect that what you might see in some states, in the federal government, is some type of right to be forgotten about sealed records, about, say, juvenile records, mm-hmm. or about arrest records, where someone is not convicted. Because in those situations, if you're not arrested, the idea behind the state law was that, look, it's just an accusation. If you're not convicted, you're not convicted. And we don't want them to hold something against you in that situation. One of the basic examples is, if you are looking for a job and you fill out an employment application, unless you're applying for a law enforcement position, they cannot ask you about arrests, and they will not ask you about arrests. They will say, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Right.
And unless you've been convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor, not a traffic ticket, not a violation, right. You're not convicted of a crime, and you're going to say no. But now with the internet, that doesn't matter what you write on that. They're just going to put your name in the Google website. No employer worth his weight in salt would not do that. And he's going to put your name in the employer, or she, and they're going to determine, listen, this guy got arrested for whatever. And that's all I know is he got arrested, and you're not going to get that job. It can have an effect long term. I suspect you will see a law that comes in from the federal level and maybe the state level that says that these search engines have to forget about people who have been arrested and not convicted. And I also know that in Florida there are some websites that they compile all these mugshots and they put these up on their website, and basically then they go to the people who have had it and say, give me money or I won't take I will take the name down. And so it's almost like an extortion racket now, a legal extortion racket, to say, this is public domain, I'm going to take this down. So to avoid that and to avoid this type of behavior, I suspect that there will be some kind of law coming down from the state and federal level to prevent that.
Interesting, though, that you say that, because while I might be able to take it down, if Google or any other search engine has grabbed that image and put it into their archives, it stays there, right? I mean, it's up to Google to take it down.
Right, but Google has Google or Bing or whatever the major search engines are. They have the ability to delist you, as it were, so that if that name comes in, they'll know. All right, don't pull up this site. Don't pull up this site. Don't pull up all the postings on it. In the same way that they have the ability to pull down sites that they don't want to be listed. I know they do that. Unfortunately, do that in some of these totalitarian countries where they're almost blocked from certain images. Where you could put in a website in China of it's like Tiananmen Square or something like that, and you won't see that picture of the guy standing in front of the tank in any Chinese website because it's just been gone. Right. But that picture's still out there, but you can't find it on their website. So they have the ability to do this.
Would you suggest then, if somebody's in that situation, that they could go to Google and kind of state their case and see if Google will help them out and take the picture down?
I don't expect that Google would do that. I don't think that they're going to want to take anything down because they take a First Amendment view of these things. It's going to have to require state legislation, federal legislation to do that. And the problem with the European court was that they were talking about not criminal behavior or alleged criminal behavior, but just any kind of behavior. And I think that the websites in the United States and the First Amendment, history which we have here, is something that is going to prevent legislatures in this country from going that far. But certainly for this, where they've already determined that this information should not be on the public record. If it shouldn't be on the public record, it shouldn't be on the internet.
All right, good stuff to know. Thank you, Tony. That's Tony DeFazio of DeFazio and Zeidman, and you're watching Your Right to Know. We'll see you next time.